Genesis chapter 1 verse 4 to 5 reads, "And God saw that the light was good, and he affirmed and sustained it. And God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the night he called darkness. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day." When I read Genesis chapter 1 verse 4 to 5, it gives me the courage to face this persistent darkness that's always trying to take me captive. This is a kind of darkness that lingers so long that it begins to even feel familiar. So familiar, in fact, that I begin to confuse it for who I am. This darkness has a heaviness that lingers even after I've slept. A quiet ache that comes to steal my joy. And it's not always loud. Sometimes it's this dull, invisible weight just pressing on my chest. It's like being stuck in a place that I can't even name, where I'm functioning, but I'm not really free. Where I'm surviving, but I'm not really seeing the way ahead. Going through life's motions, but not really actively living. The miracle in this text isn't just that God speaks light into darkness, but that he sees the light as good and he separates it from the darkness, not to shame me, but to rescue me. God doesn't just create the light. He draws a line with mercy and grace in his hand. He says, "This part is no longer your home. This darkness that you're entangled in, I am pulling you out of." And here's the beauty of it. Evening came first. That means God doesn't have to wait for the darkness to pass in order for him to start the day. Instead, he begins my day in the darkness and moves me gently into my morning. That's what grace looks like to me. Not a sudden escape from the weight, but a Savior who enters it with me. A Father who whispers light and clarity into my life and begins to separate my purpose from my pain, my calling from my chaos, until I remember who I am again. Not forgotten, not buried in the dark, but seen, chosen, separated for light. God is a God of distinction, not confusion. God saw that the light was good, fit for purpose, beneficial. God's divine assessment of his creation is not emotional, but intentional. He calls the light good because it aligns with his will and reflects his character. God is not a blind force. He's a thoughtful creator, intentional in all his ways. He affirms me and sustains me. What God calls good, he doesn't just leave. It becomes good, purposeful, and central. God separates the light from the darkness. He distinguishes it and sets it apart. This act introduces the principle of divine separation, not as rejection, but as clarity. God shows here that light and darkness are not to coexist without definition. A lot of the times we live in moral fog, in gray areas, but God brings the light in order to expose, to clarify, and set apart what aligns with his will. God doesn't just create the light, he names it. He protects it and he sets boundaries around it. This God who separates light from darkness is also more than able to separate me from the confusion, the relationships, the habits that seek to dim my spiritual clarity. Those things or people in my life that I view as light. Yet deep down, I know or I have a feeling that they're not good for me. God brings clarity and truth to help me and separate me from those illusions. God called the light day and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day. Life without rhythm is a dry, long, monotonous drone of mere survival. God didn't just make light, He named it, He timed it, and He placed it in a rhythm. This gives me hope that my chaos isn't beyond repair. God gives identity to time itself. So even if I feel like I'm in the evening part of my story, I can rest in the hope that God, in His grace, has already scheduled my morning.